Hoose, The Last Village, by James E.M. Rowlands. Episode 4. It is dark and cold, so cold. The sky is deeply overcast, yet beyond is filled with wondrous, mesmerizing stars which our eyes cannot behold. 4, which may have been inclined to gaze up, are shut. The men shiver and breathe heavily. The stench is abominable, like a recently abandoned abattoir for skunk. Each inhalation brings nausea. The rancid, decaying fish mound upon the boat has caved in and become foul slush. Bevan and Armitage lie on and in this on their sides, lapels covering their mouths. They know that they must drink, that land will have to be made soon, that this unearthly gleaning of cod and inedible wrasse will inevitably be jostled and oozed over the sides of Iris. For now, they accept the immediate, sleep. No good will come of them otherwise. They do not believe the tales of sailors accepting death. All the maritime saints and masses, gatherings, tears and wreaths have never brought a lost man back. Only consternation and sadness. At dawn, land will surely appear somewhere. They will watch, and then trace the roots of gulls home. Back in Hoose, no one is able to slumber either. What a day! Jenny Bird and her mother sit in rocking chairs by a fire with mugs of hard, frothy drink, and they glide to and fro like swings in an abandoned playground. A candle reaches wick's end to their left upon the hearth and fills the air with its singeing before this is sucked up the chimney like all else. "Mother, who was Jane Bird?" she asks calmly.
"Yeah,
"I found an embroidered cushion today with the name Jane Bird. Do you know who that was? A relation?"
I can't hear you, love. Relation? What?"
She sighs and gives up. If only her father was still alive, he would know. It doesn't really mean much in any case, just something to pass the time, to change the subject. Outside is eerily soundless, bar the now constant cetacean opera. What could they be saying to each other? There are tales, old wives' tales that whales and all those sea mammals which evolved on solid ground but returned to the deep sometimes come back when old and bewildered to die, as if an ancestry of millions of years tugs and nags them home. Jenny has been sketching tonight, a portrait of her mother. The traits are distorted caricatures that the cruelest Serbian artist in Montmartre would never dare. There is an element of great unkindness in them, a biting darkness. Jenny looks at the last one, holds it up next to her mother's face, smiles, and then scrunches her oeuvre into a ball and tosses it into the fireplace.
"Oh, you didn't let me see, love,"
says Ma'am. It was no good. A knock. Then another. All right, I'm coming, she says.
"Yeah,
It's the door, Ma'am.
the what?"
She opens to find Mr. Grace standing with his hands on his hips and clearly out of breath. He's a tall man standing at 6 foot, which is unusual for these parts, and well dressed, although not overtly so. He fits in. Upon his head is a dark blue bowler hat, symbol of belonging to the middle class, of which he is the only remnant now. He has no facial hair, bar sideburns. He's neither handsome nor ugly, and he rarely smiles, but maintains something of an air of frivolity. How can I put it? He seems to spend his days in the most unproductive pursuits. Before yesterday, that is. He would collect bits and bobs from the sand, play with them, on occasion repair a machine that no one had requested him to mend, that sort of thing. You must bear in mind that such behavior amid people who are working, eating, and sleeping and little else is out of sorts. There is also an aura of melancholia around him. I ran all the way, he spits out. From where? Hoose is, after all, hardly big enough to be this breathless unless one decided to run laps around it. I need to show you something. The following morning, the sun rises in the south. At this juncture, I should describe Hoose a little more for you, dear listener, who can neither see it on a map nor in your mind's eye. It is now a ragged oblong about 500 yards long and 200 yards wide. At the top left corner, use of compass points being now moot, is the lighthouse, and at the top right is the Dodds home and stables. The Plasterer's pub is just a few yards below this and to the left. Most of our cast now congregate here all day, some all night. Bevan stays at the lighthouse as his home, situated on the very bottom left of this doomed rectangle, is now unsafe. In fact, the whole row along Market Street at the bottom and much of Trinity Road on the right side is frankly unlivable. This leaves the centre. In a recent past, Hoose was split between the sand hills of Seaview to the upper middle and the grove, which made up most of the rest, until the ill-starred Punch Bowl. There are a couple of transversal roads, once lanes. The most notable of these are Grove Road, which is just below its distant namesake, dead centre, left to right. Then below this, Walker Street, and then Rudd Street, running parallel. These are all newish terraced houses, and something far from how the older inhabitants would have remembered the place even 2 generations ago. Ponder this yourself when you next look at a field, or fields, hills, moors, marshland. These will not be here in your lifetime. Homes become villages, villages, blocks. But in our story, as you know, one village has become everything. Just above the sound of the sea and of squawking, there is shouting and growling. 2 voices, 1 man, 1 woman, and they are pleading for help. The Sherlocks are nearest to the source, and so the father of the family nervously pokes his head outside to gauge in which direction help is needed. There's a boathouse and yard just across the road. Its gate opens onto the shore.
Help us,
comes the cry.
Them wild dogs are just outside.
It's Jenny. We have to draw the hounds away, John says to his wife. Do we have a piece of meat?
There's barely enough for ourselves,
replies Anne. There's nothing else for it, though, other than to shoot the dogs, but he knows neither their number nor their state of rabidity.
Anything. Piece of chicken.
She hands him a dingy tea towel with morsels of food inside.
Be careful, John,
she scolds lovingly. Sherlock creeps out. His plan is to get within eyeshot of the corner of the boathouse and then call out, getting their undivided attention. And once this is done, he will run and throw the meat and hope they follow it and not him. Sound familiar? This will give Grace and Jenny just enough time to free themselves, in theory. However, just as he reaches the anointed spot, he becomes the focus of attention for other assailants. A squabble of seagulls has smelled sustenance. They attack John viciously, pecking and beating with their wings. He attempts to lose the food, but his throwing arm is penned in by their incessant mauling. Now his own screams, plus the odor of his fresh blood, plus the chicken has drawn the snarling dogs. Grace and Jen see their chance and get away from the boathouse, but witness their neighbor's terrifying fate. Just as the pack is a mere 10 yards from Sherlock and themselves, uneasy in the face of the violent Lariday, a remarkable turn of events ensues.
Fly!
Ben, the vagabond, is standing in the center of Lake Place with what seems to be a rope twirling around his head, upon which are small bells. "Fly," he says. A large hawk swoops down towards him, barely grazes his head and steams forward towards the gulls, ripping one to shreds instantly with its talons. The others waste no time in scarpering back to the sea, even roofs being of no shelter in the face of their nemesis. John Sherlock throws the meat to Grace, who in turn runs back to the boat shed, and as the dogs change course, he chucks it inside, and they follow, and he slams the door shut. "We'll have to nail this," says Grace. John thanks Ben. Ben emits a whistle, swirls his rope and walks away, oblivious and unresponsive to the gratitude. The dogs are locked up now, but this can't be a permanent fixture, though. Their howls will become unbearable, and people here are close to their animals, and not inhumane per se. They will have to find a solution. Sherlock is chastised by his wife, who yanks him by the sleeve back into their cottage and bangs the door. His day is done. There will be no more ill-advised heroism from him, that's for certain. Jen and Grace, panting, turn to each other. "What are we going to say?" she asks. "Well, we were just taking a stroll," Grace replies. Then, as the others begin to arrive, he adds, "No one must know yet." She looks down at her shoes in vexation and wipes sweat from her brow. The lighthouse keeper, the publicans, and the livery yard worker, along with their wives, all want to know what happened. What was this commotion? Why? Dodds says that they could try to restrain the dogs one by one, to muzzle them, and attempt to unwild, in Hoose parlance, what has become so quickly savage and ravenous. The thoughtful Mr. Lewis quite rightly retorts, mirroring what Mrs. Sherlock has already stated, that there's already not enough food for all of them. Mrs. Sherlock, angered and bitter from behind her door, which is only slightly ajar, is of the opinion that they should be burned alive where they are. An agitated Bevan has other news. Not yet alarming, he tells the others, but important nonetheless. Oh, Bevan is wrong. He bids them follow him to the shore. The group stand shoulder to shoulder and gasp as one at the sight of untold hundreds, thousands of sea lions, seals, walruses, as far as the eye can see, and all heading for Hoose. Before the clock strikes midday, all four sides of this floating prison are utterly clogged by these undulating creatures. For wherever congregate seals and such, will come predators. The sea surrounding the village is becoming an unpassable barrier. No one can get out, and no one will be able to approach. "Look!" shouts Mrs. Dodds. "Fitch and Armitage," she tells the child. "Land," murmurs her husband in the boat, with what energy he still has. "I can see the lighthouse." True enough, they have drifted back towards Hoose, or it to them. Any brief glimmer of optimism will, however, soon be dashed as they set eyes upon the groaning, roaring, snapping carnage of nature which is set between them. Seals, like cats, dogs, gulls, and human beings, die with their eyes wide open, and soon the waters will run red.